Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and this time you made me watch Paddington 2. This was requested by Conner Neilsen on Patreon, so thanks a lot to you, my good friend Connor. This is some firsts for You Made Me Watch. Connor's setting records here. This is, I think, the first sequel I've been asked to do, and this is certainly the first sequel to a movie that I had never seen that I've had to do on this show. And if memory serves, Connor said that I could probably get away with watching this movie without the first one. I'm actually not totally sure why he wanted me to do 2 over 1. It might have had something to do with its universal praise, and I didn't realize just how liked this was by critics, by the way. The first movie was beloved as well, but the second one even more so, it seems, and I'll talk about that. But I decided to go ahead and watch the first movie. I opted to come in without the ignorance of the first film, of not seeing the first film, although I do kind of wonder what reviewing that would have been like and what my experience would have been seeing that had I not seen the first one. This is a complete gray area, total blind spot for me. I'm not remotely qualified to talk about these except for the fact that I have now seen them once. I'm going to be primarily reviewing Paddington 2, but I won't be able to help but talk a little bit about the first movie and compare them some as well. So I'm just going to do broad strokes on this. I'm not going to get into nitty-gritty details. This looked like really typical kiddie movie fare to me, and I didn't know what the big deal was, and I had plenty of other things to show my kids, so it just didn't occur to me to even grab these and show them to them. So I'm really glad that Connor turned me on to this. It's certainly a lot of fun for children, and there's something here for adults as well. I think this franchise is much needed, and I think a lot of the reason that it's as beloved as it is because we just don't make a lot of stuff like this anymore. And I would argue that there's a lot of movies from when I was growing up in the 90s that thought they were this kind of thing. So even when we made more G-rated family fare that wasn't too kiddified and that was talking maybe a little bit above kids' heads, that was trying to be slightly smarter and not so least common denominator and not, wholly entirely formulaic. A lot of those things really fell flat, even back when we did make some things like that. These are G-rated films, or at least the first one is. I assume the second one is too. I didn't actually check on that, but I just kind of made that assumption. It's made by a lot of, if not all, the same people. It's directed by the same guy, Paul King. Directed by Paul King, story by Hanish McCall and Paul King on the first movie. Is it the same? Second movie is written by Paul King and then a different person, Simon Follenby, which actually doesn't surprise me. These are kind of different calibers of scripts, in my opinion. But anyway, so these movies are based on a much-loved teddy bear character that was not one of those storybook teddy bear characters that I grew up with. I knew who Corduroy was. I knew who Winnie the Pooh was, of course. I never heard of Paddington. And I thought maybe that was because this was a British character and it just wasn't as big here. And I'm sure it wasn't as big here. But a lot of my friends were apparently big Paddington fans growing up and were really loved this character, and it spoke to them as kids, and it's sort of like, I imagine it's sort of like if suddenly we made an Amelia Bedelia movie, because that was a thing that I saw. I read a whole lot when I was a kid, and something that I haven't thought about in years, but if suddenly we made that, I'd probably be interested in it, and be like, oh yeah, that beloved character, Amelia Bedelia. And I guess I'm thinking of her because that's another kind of like absent-minded character who gets in a lot of trouble and mistakes a lot of verbiage for being something else. I think Paddington has a better excuse for not understanding anything around him, because he, in the first movie anyway, we don't do as much of that in the second, which is good because he's lived in London a while and he's not an idiot character, so I'm glad we did that. But in that first movie, there's a lot of fun stuff, like he's riding on an escalator and it says to stay to the right, and he doesn't understand or what that means. So he stands on one foot the whole time, and things like that. And sometimes those kind of fish out of water things can be really tedious and unfunny. But I think it's pretty clever and creative in that movie. Anyway, that's why I thought of Amelia Bedelia. But yeah, a lot of my friends apparently grew up with this character, and maybe it was just a thing like in the school library that a lot of people looked at, or maybe in elementary school, a lot of people read the Paddington books. Like a lot of like Beverly Cleary and authors like that, like maybe who was it, Michael Bond was in there, and somehow I just totally missed it. It's in my kids' curriculum. Jason was familiar with Paddington, had read at least one book for our homeschool program, and I have not. So anyway, I had to kind of play catch up on this. Vince, who used to be on the channel all the time, big fan of this series, and talked these movies up real hard when they were coming out. So again, I'm glad Conner had me finally watch these. Like I said, I'm really glad that this series exists, particularly that first movie. We need more of this kind of like real, actual, like good-natured, wholesome family stuff that also has a little bit of a bite to it. That's what I really like about it. The British sensibilities, again, particularly in that first movie, resonated with me a lot. I've always really enjoyed that kind of humor. The best way I can describe this, as far as the overall tone of it and the caliber of the writing, is because it's a really quirky kind of thing, and it's got obviously absurdist tendencies to it. It feels kind of like a Harry Potter mixed with a series of unfortunate events, but again, only in the flavor of it. This certainly doesn't have any real supernatural component or anything. I think the second movie has like a fortune teller in it, but I can't remember if that character was actually supposed to really be reading the future. So I don't think we have any actual, like, real supernatural fantastic elements to this, besides the fact, the initial conceit of just bears can talk. Only special bears can talk. They have to be in a culture off to their own in the woods, set up by an explorer guy who taught them how to talk and a lot of other things. So I guess any bear could maybe do this, but it's really hard and most of them can't. But it's also a world where, even though this is not commonplace, nobody seems all that surprised by it or tends to mind it. There's not a whole lot, there's not an X-Men thing here. There's not a lot of a question of, is this bear considered a person in the society? Does he have any rights once he moves out of the forest into London? He's treated more or less like a regular person, and for better or worse. In the second movie, he ends up going to prison because he's wrongly accused for stealing a pop-up book, or as the guy who owns the antique shop where the pop-up book is calls it, a popping book. So I feel like I'm in kind of a precarious position with this, with the second movie, with Paddington 2. Everybody I heard talking about this when it came out, this came out in 2017, the first movie came out in 2014, said that the second movie was even superior to the first, and they couldn't believe that it stuck the landing as well as it did a second time. Everybody was really impressed with this, with these, of course, for being so true to the source material, for having the same sensibilities and flavor, and for being just so darn heartfelt and, again, wholesome and tugging at the heartstrings. That first movie did really resonate with me quite a bit. I love the family dynamics in that. I love the idea of this character who just always assumes the best about people and who always draws out the best in people. And this is a classic story type where you have a character, we talk about this a lot in writing school, some of the big main story types for short stories especially. One of them is a character who shows up in a town and really like stirs things up, mixes them up for better or worse. This is one of those. Paddington is a character who has a character arc in the sense that he has to learn how to acclimate to the new world around him that he's not used to, but it's much more about the way he changes people and the world around him. And in the first movie, it's that he makes the family that he moves in with better people. He makes them more optimistic and more kind-hearted. The mother, I guess, always was, but the father kind of learns how to take risks, and like he's a good-natured person too. He's got a good soul, but at first he doesn't want anything to do with Paddington, and he's because he's not a terrible person, he's willing to bring the bear in for the night, but that's all he wants to do. And as time goes on, he comes to realize, and they kind of spell this out at the end of the movie, the family needed him as much as he needed the family. There's a lot of kind of like obvious messaging and kind of stereotypical stuff here, but it makes it fresh again a little bit, and it handles all those things so well. It feels familiar before it feels overdone or redundant, or just, been there, done that. And then in the second movie, he teaches it goes farther, it's got to be bigger because it's a sequel, and so he teaches kind of the neighborhood how to be better people and see, the good in people. He brings out the best in them, and he also does it with the prison that he goes into. It took a while for the movie to win me over on that whole thing, but once it did, that was certainly a lot of fun. But like I said, I'm feeling like I'm in a precarious position because the second movie is universally praised, and that is not an exaggeration. That is not hyperbolic. Out of 200 and I think I read 60 something reviews or whatever it is on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 100%. Almost said approval rating. It is 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It is, I think it beat Toy Story 2 out for the most reviews that something got on that site, without getting one negative, without one getting essentially red sign flip. And the first movie is at 97%. And I saw a list from another site that called it like the 60-something-th best movie of the 21st century. This is the sequel we're talking about. It's fine. It's good. It's not, unwatchable. It does a lot of the same stuff that the first movie does that I liked so much, particularly in the visuals. The style of this is unmatched, man. Like both of these movies, the visual storytelling is incredible. What they do in making it feel like a storybook, and particularly the POV stuff in showing how certain characters are looking at the world differently from others, will kind of get in their head. And in the second movie, there's this really cool bit where, we get into people's imaginations, and these are very much about imagination, kind of versus reality, in this really heightened reality that feels like it came out of somebody's imagination, certainly. And there's this really cool scene in the second movie where Paddington gets the popping book. I'm just going to call it that now. It's the popping book. And the whole idea, the whole conceit of this movie, by the way, is, or the premise, I should say, is he has an aunt who is about to have her 100th birthday. I think that's in bear years. I'm going to assume that bears have a different way of tracking years. I think they say that. I can't remember. Or maybe she just is that old. I don't remember. But anyway, it's her 100th birthday, or about to be, and he wants the perfect gift for her. And she's never been to London, and that's been her dream. And he finds this pop-up book in this antique shop run by a guy who we saw in the first movie, and we saw that antique shop. He gets more screen time here. He's a lot of fun. He's really, like everything in this movie, he's really quirky and kind of out there and weird. He's got this not so big gray hair, and he's kind of wild and odd, and he's eccentric. And Paddington wants this a really rare book. It's only one of its kind for her birthday. And instead of going around to different bookstores and seeing if he can find some kind of more recent and mass-produced equivalent, he doesn't think of that, and he wants to save up for this thing, which the store owner says he's going to have to save up 1,000 coins for. And I don't know if it's $1,000, if the coin that Paddington had that he's talking about is a dollar coin, or or if it's like a quarter and it would cost less than that, but it's an expensive book. It's going to be a few $100s at the very least. And so he does a bunch of odd jobs, and that's where a lot of the pratfall humor and the kind of hilarity ensues before he goes to prison, where the movie takes this really strange left turn that I was not expecting. I'm sure that's in the previews, but I never saw them. All I actually, now that I think about it, I did. But I remember just seeing him in court, and I thought this was going to be some kind of strange courtroom drama, and was surprised when it wasn't that. He just goes to prison. But anyway, there's this really cool bit where he opens up the popping book, and he goes inside of it, and you see him taking his aunt around to various places in London while they're surrounded by pop-up book characters like they look in the book. The way this, and it's just delightful, the way this movie uses CG to its advantage or these movies together, it should be the gold standard for this, at least for certainly this kind of thing. Like, it's not perfectly realistically integrated because it's a heightened world where the rules are different, certainly. And so it's able to get away with some things, to be fair, that some more realistic things that I complain aren't working hard enough sometimes to integrate their CG. Don't have to, it doesn't have to deal with some of that. They don't have the luxury of what this is doing. Paddington looks like an animated CG character throughout this thing, but even though I'm looking at real life actors playing these characters, the whole place feels drawn to me anyway. So it's really easy to get over the Uncanny Valley thing. It doesn't even feel Uncanny Valley. And the reason the CG stuff is so impressive is because it feels like this is the only way to make this movie. It's not like a lot of, and I guess this is what I might have been worried this movie was going to be, which is why I didn't think to watch it, and also just because I'd never heard of this material. But I figured probably another Alvin and the Chipmunks or a Smurfs or something, where you're just cashing in on the name recognition of an old property, in these cases cartoon shows. Those things feel like they have to use CG characters instead of doing a new animated thing because live action legitimizes everything. And then they do, from what I know anyway, and like the Scooby-Doo movies had this to some degree. I've seen other things like this. The kind of stereotypical way to do this, what you expect, you take a tired kind of cookie cutter framework and you plug in for a formula, and then you rely nearly entirely on potty humor and lowbrow jokes and just the really easy stuff that kids might laugh at, but it's going to be disposable and nobody's going to remember it after they left the movie theater. And this is not that, especially in my mind, the first movie, because it's using CG because it has to for the kind of thing that it wants to make. Yeah, this could have been animated, but it is really pushing some technical envelopes in doing this in live action. There is these great cross-section sequences, or maybe that's not the way to put it. There's these great sequences where you see the outside of the family's house. They do this in both movies. It's really cool in the first one because it sort of bookends with it, where you have, it's not right at the beginning, but it's pretty early, where we're looking at the outside of their house if you took off the walls, and you're seeing each room like you're looking at it through a dollhouse, and we use that to describe each of these characters in voiceover from Paddington's perspective, I think, in explaining their prevailing character traits and what they're all like, and kind of revealing their strengths and weaknesses. And then at the end, we go back to that and we discuss how they've changed as people. And it's a storybook. The change in each of these characters is real simple and a little bit light switchy, but the movie gets away with it because it's playing by its own rules. And the whole point is Paddington comes in and he expects people to be kind to him and considerate and to help him out because he's downtrodden and he needs something. And that first movie is a little bit of a commentary on how London has changed, and I like that a lot. It talks about how the city has gotten cold and how people don't really take care of each other anymore, and he's told by his bear family at the beginning that people will not have forgotten how to treat a stranger, and they absolutely have forgotten that. But because Paddington's attitude about life, his just inherent optimism, is so infectious, he turns people into that. And it helps, of course, that at least one member of that family was already that way. So the idea is that that is not completely lost. The human condition is still not overall devoid of compassion, but overall, the society has gotten somewhat cynical, and this is pushing back against that within a storybook story. It's wonderful. And then you get to the end, and you get to see the kind of dollhouse again, and again see how all these characters have changed. It's just wonderful to look at. But let me go ahead and get into my feelings about the two movies compared to each other, because I was not as impressed with the second one, and I was really surprised that it had surpassed the first in popularity the way it had. So I guess this is a hot take from me. I feel really weird about this because of how talked up that second movie had been. Because I remember hearing about that. I didn't know anything about these movies, but I remember everybody going, God, Paddington 2 is amazing. It's so much better than the first movie. That I didn't have that experience, and I've only seen it once. Some of it might have been because of, I don't want to apologize for this. I just think it's weird that, like, 260 people reviewed that on Rotten Tomatoes and flipped their sign differently than I would, at least compared to the first one. Now, to be fair, I'm feeling it as a little bit different because, I don't know, if I'm going... This is subtle, but if I'm going thumbs up and thumbs down, I might flip slightly differently than if I'm saying feeling it or not feeling it. Like, the approach I've always taken on this show is that this sign flip is not good or bad. It's just, am I feeling it or not? Did I dig this? Very often, it's like, would I want to sit down and watch this a second time? And I gotta tell you, that second movie, not really. Like I said, I enjoyed things about it. It was fine. But I'm actually not feeling it. I'm really not. Like, I feel like I do have to turn my sign red on this one, and mostly compared to that first movie. That's why I'm saying, because I can't hold everything to the same standards. If I watched this first, I might have been impressed by all this, especially the visual stuff, and just the overall attitude of this, like I was the first. But I didn't think the writing was quite as good, and I did feel like the story was a little bit more formulaic. Now, the first movie, I can look back and I can track it and I can go, I have seen movies that fall in this basic structure before, and certainly I've seen a lot of family things that do a lot of the things that this is doing, where you've got this bear who is looking for a family, and he finds this family that he loves, but he's causing a lot of problems. He's flooding their house. He's wreaking havoc on accident, and he's not going to be allowed to stay. The father is worried that, and by the way, I'm surprised by how likable the father ends up being, because he could have been awful very easily, and we subvert that very quickly, which I really appreciated. There's more than meets the eye to him very quickly, and I really liked that. I like that he's a risk analyst, and that what he does for a living is where his kind of fears come from, and why he's not willing to take risks. And again, we do a light switch thing at the end where he becomes the exact opposite of that, and then hilariously at the beginning of the second movie, he loses that job because, in my mind, he can't be a risk analyst anymore because he's not afraid of taking risks anymore, so he can't do that job now. I thought that was kind of fun. Anyway, I digress, but you've got that guy who's kind of against Paddington, against the bear, and then you have a bad guy in the background who is kind of a Cruella de Vil type who wants to stuff him, and we don't know her motivations for that initially. I was surprised that they were as connected to Paddington's background as they were. I thought that was really cool. And but of course, you know he's gonna get with this family at the end and stay with them. You know that they're gonna have the opportunities for change. You know that that the villain at the end is going to end up losing and probably get dropped into some kind of vat or of something and get all gross at the end and end up in a in like a Nickelodeon situation. All that stuff was very callable, but as I was watching it, it didn't feel routine. I wasn't calling things as I was going. I didn't keep, like, I guess I was just, the story resonated with me enough and I was invested enough in the characters that a lot of things that don't usually work for me and things did in that context. Or if they didn't, I didn't care because I was enjoying it so much that I was able to kind of give them a pass on certain things that just weren't for me. It was much easier with the first movie I found than the second to go, okay, this part's not really for me, but I still really like Paddington. I'm still enjoying this experience. So you've got, like I said, a lot of pratfall comedy. There's a lot of slapstick in this, and some of that stuff I found funny and laughed at out loud, and some of it I didn't. In the second one, a lot of it I didn't. You have a bit at the beginning where he's working at a barbershop because he's trying to raise money for that book, and he feels forced in a situation where he has to pretend like he's a barber, and so you know where this is going. He's gonna end up accidentally shaving this guy's head wrong, and then he tries to use marmalade to get, because he's obsessed with marmalade. That's a whole thing in this. With all the bears, they love marmalade. I guess that's a big thing with those books. Anyway, kind of like Winnie the Pooh and Honey. He uses marmalade to stick the hair back on the guy's head. None of that was funny to me, and I was just kind of, I wasn't grossed out by it, but I was just kind of waiting for that to end. None of that stuff in the first movie was I kind of look at my watch going, when is this scene gonna end? I'm not enjoying this part. And I think it's just because it's as simple as this. The first story really resonated with me. All of the stuff about like family not being your blood, but people that you come to care about so much that they're a part of you. That all meant a lot to me by the end. And the second movie, I just didn't have that, and so some of this might be a taste issue, but I guess I'm just surprised that more people didn't have a taste issue thing with that second movie like I did. So it's not fair to say the second movie is formulaic and the first is not. That is not true. It's not fair to say that. But just my own personal experience, the second movie felt that way more to me. It felt more routine. It felt more typical. I also had a much harder time suspending disbelief, and that's a sticky wicket with these because you are in a really absurd world where the rules are different. But in the second movie, I found it difficult to get my head around what the rules even were in certain cases. For instance, when we're in the prison, we're told that the reason the food sucks as much as it does, and of course it's prison food, you could just go, well, it's prison food, but they have a limited budget, and they're not able to get a lot of ingredients that they would want to have. But then, magically, they have everything they need for the marmalade, but even after Paddington makes the marmalade with Knuckles, no, not that Knuckles. He's not an echidna. He's played by the guy who played Mad-Eye Moody in Harry Potter, and he's great. I really like him. He was one of the characters that really got me through the story. I enjoyed him quite a bit, actually. He, of course, initially doesn't like Paddington, and then gets the whiff of some of the marmalade. This is actually one of the other things that was difficult for me to get my head around. I don't know how Paddington got the marmalade in the prison in the first place. He constantly has it under his hat, and so I guess the conceit is he's got it under his hat, like, no matter what's happening. The first movie, there weren't those logical leaps as much. Like, there's certainly movie logic, and there's certainly storybook logic, but it didn't seem like cartoon logic, if that makes any sense. It didn't seem like he could just magically go, ta-da, I have marmalade under my hat. Like, you always got the sense that, well, he got that from somewhere, and then he put it under his hat. Maybe I'm missing something, but I was asking myself that question a lot watching this. I kept going, wait a minute, am I missing something? Maybe he got it from his family when like maybe there's a scene we don't see where they visit him for the first time and he gets it that way, but then I don't see how because there's glass between them, so maybe not. I don't want to nitpick the movie to death. This is again a thing that can get away with some silly leaps in logic, but I feel like it's doing a lot more of that than the first movie did. I don't know. It's just, if the first movie did that, I never noticed it. And this time it was a constant distraction. So again, I'm just relaying the experience I had with it. I don't know if this is fair. I don't know if I would feel that way on a second viewing. This is a first impression review, and this is where I was with it. But so Knuckles starts to make marmalade with Paddington after he gets some from under his hat. He's like, oh, this is delicious. And now the inmates are going to have something that they actually like. And they still don't have anything good to go with it. It's like it's on this, there's this part where Paddington goes, it's on this bread, and then also we're going to give you some more of this bread. And then as time goes on, all of a sudden, they have, like, fine china in the prison, and they have like way better furniture in the like it looks like a restaurant with restaurant furniture. And I was thinking, oh, this must be another one of these scenes where we're looking at it from Paddington's perspective, and I thought that was clever, where it's like as things are going along, he doesn't feel like he's in prison anymore. It's starting to become his home, just like London became his home. He felt like he belonged there, and the house that the family lives in became his home. But that's not what it is at all, because later there's a scene where all the chairs are like put up on top of tables and all the lights are off, and it is very clearly what has actually happened. Somehow they got all of that. I guess the warden maybe liked the marmalade so much that he gave them more of a budget or something. I don't know. But that stuff kind of jumped out at me, and it was also kind of hard to get my head around Paddington going to jail in the first place. It was a bridge too far for me. Again, I don't know that that's fair, but the logic that I got in the first movie, I would not have expected it to go as far as it did here. I did like that pratfall scene that I didn't care for with the guy in the barbershop turns out to be the judge that puts him away, and that's the kind of contrivance or like convenient thing that you can do in a storybook thing where that's the joke, right? Because a lot of this is about the comedy, and comedy is subjective. So I mean, you're either going to find it funny or you're not. First movie I found funny a lot. The second movie did not laugh as much, and was also taken out more. And maybe being taken out by the logical leaps was maybe part of the reason I didn't find some of it as funny. I'm not sure, but I also don't think that script is as good. I really don't. There's not anything like as much like clever British humor stuff in that second movie, and a lot of the kind of biting stuff and like bordering on satirical stuff that I saw in the first movie, it's just kind of missing, or when it's there, it's too much in the background. There's a couple of really funny bits with like, I forget what, but with like headlines on newspapers that I thought were really funny, but like you gotta be really watching for them. And it's great that it has that level of detail, don't get me wrong. Again, both movies are executed just as well as the other, like perfectly. But that first movie is a nigh perfect movie. And the second one, I think part of the deal too is that first movie feels like a pure British film to me. And I mean, I think they both are, but the second movie felt a lot more Hollywooded to me. It felt more Americanized. I almost wish that somehow both movies had been made before that first movie was popular, because I wonder if that didn't affect it some. But I seem to be the only person on the planet that had any issue with that second movie, so I mean, what do I know? But then you have weird things like I said, he goes to prison, so we're putting forget that he's a bear, we're putting a minor in prison who allegedly stole a book, and the guy in the store who he stole it from doesn't even believe that he's the one that did it. Like, I'm not sure that charges would have even been pressed. The more I'm thinking about it, I guess I don't know. But again, I mean, this is hard for me to reconcile, because it's like, on the one hand, this doesn't really make any sense with like, due process, and stuff, and then another part of me goes, well, you can't think about that stuff because it's silly storybook logic. And so, like, that's part of the joke is, isn't this absurd? You have this judge with so much power. This world seems a lot more cynical and a lot scarier than I thought it was in that first movie. If you have a judge like that, that just, if he doesn't like someone, can put them away for 10 years for stealing something like that small and relatively not valuable. Like, it's valuable, but there were a lot of other things in there that he could have stolen that he didn't. And then and it's obvious that he did that just because he was angry about his haircut, and that's supposed to be the joke. It was a bridge too far for me. And I also felt that way about all the action stuff at the end. It got so over the top that my eyes just kind of glazed over, and I was like, okay, we're watching this kind of movie. Like it became that goofy kiddie fare, or I should say, like, really typical kiddie fare. I guess the thing is, the first movie is, this is how it feels like to me. The first movie is a storybook formula. Movie formula to some degree, but it's more of like a storybook formula, and the second movie is more of a, like, action movie formula, or like kid action movie formula. So some of it was just, it didn't resonate with me. It's not what I wanted from this, and I wonder if I would have liked it more if I hadn't watched them both in the same day. But I felt like the caliber of storytelling kind of dropped a little bit. I feel weird about flipping my sign red. And red feels strong, like too strong. The first movie I would give, like, as green as you could possibly give, and the second movie I would give as light red as possible. Like, if it was good movie or bad movie, it would get a green sign flip. But when it's looking at, especially at both of these movies together, when it's I'm feeling it or I'm not, I'm really not. I gotta say. So, take that as you will. Look at it both ways. It's an okay movie. It's fine. It's not what I wanted, and I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as the first one, and I'll probably go back to that first one a few times, and that second one I don't really feel the need to watch again. Other weird kind of logic things. This is another thing I wanted to mention is, and again, I might have missed something, but I kept trying to figure it out, and Brandon watched it with me. He couldn't figure it out either, and Brandon had the same experience I did as well. He also was not understanding what the hype was about. And by the way, let me say, I'm not trying to be contrary. I didn't walk into this going, everybody said this is great, there's no way this is as good as I expected, because I walked into the first one knowing how popular it was, and I was like, this is amazing. Now I get what all the hype was about. I had forgotten the second movie had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I didn't tell Brandon that, and I said Brandon also didn't get the hype. I don't think Brandon knew how popular these were. So neither of us was walking into this going, oh yeah, we're going to beat this movie. This movie is apparently great. I bet it's stupid. Obviously, I'm not going into movies doing that, and I don't want my time wasted. I'm hoping to enjoy a thing. But we were trying to figure out some story points. Oh, and real quick, let me also say, part of the problem with the second movie is I didn't like that villain as much. I didn't think anything he did was funny at all. And Hugh Grant's a great actor. He was okay. That first villain didn't do a ton for me either, although, like I said, I really liked the surprise motivation at the end. But she was at least not on screen all the time. Like, I felt like he took over the movie too much. That was part of it. But anyway, you have a couple of weird things with the book, and I'd love somebody to explain this to me if I'm missing something. So this may not be fair. I don't know. I just don't know if I missed something. The mom is able to go to all of the landmarks that are in the book, because the whole reason that Hugh Grant, who is a washed out, used to be really popular actor who now has to make dog food commercials, and he doesn't want to have to do that anymore, so he's trying to get rich quick. He misses his lifestyle, and he wants to live rich again. Not as fun of a motivation as the first one, where it's like, I have to do taxidermy on this bear because my father was the explorer, dun dun dun, and he got drummed out because of the Explorers Guild or whatever, because he wouldn't like take a specimen and put it in the museum because he had more integrity than that and he cared about the bears. And so she wants to fix his mistake and do that to one of the bears. That was a surprising motivation. I thought that was a lot of fun, and much more than Cruella de Vil, which is just, I want a cool coat. I also love that gag on the side of the truck in that movie where it says taxidermy, but at first you just see taxi and then it moves it out. It's taxidermy. That's really funny. But then in this movie, like I said, it's not as fun of a villain. It's not as cool of a motivation. It's not as inspired, I didn't think. But also, he's just on screen too long. And anyway, he wants the book because it's a secret treasure map. So it's that old gem. And I think I enjoyed the MacGuffin of the first movie being the character himself, Paddington, more than this, where it's just another artifact that everybody is after and that leads you to treasure, and then the big thing at the end is there's treasure. And I don't know, I didn't need like a big exciting plot twist or anything, but I did kind of have that, okay, that's all this was leading to, kind of thing, because you really didn't have to have the book. Like, Hugh Grant's character could have broken into the shop and written down everything he needed and left and not stolen the book, and then he probably wouldn't have gotten caught. Maybe he still would have because Paddington was there, but that would have been my plan. I wouldn't have like planned to take the book. Like, it didn't seem like the guy had cameras or anything. It'd be really easy to just write down all the information you needed. So there's that. That's minor. It's not hard to get around that in the writing, I guess. But the mom knows where all the landmarks are, but I don't think she's ever seen the book. So I was kind of confused about that. And then it's also weird how obviously interested in the book the Hugh Grant's character is toward the beginning of the movie at the fair, and people are putting two and two together much faster than I thought they might be able to, where they're kind of making some maybe leaps, maybe some assumptions to get them to the bad guy faster. I'm not sure if I feel like that's really happening. But then it doesn't occur to anybody, oh yeah, that's right, this guy was really interested in that book. That's kind of a minor point, but I don't know, it came to me, so I mentioned it. Anyway, I think that first movie is just absolutely phenomenal and should be the blueprint and the gold standard for how G-rated kid movies are made. It's weird to say pushing the G envelope so hard, but it was really cool that you had a movie that is, like if this was video games, it's rated E for everyone, and it's not afraid to talk about death, and it's not afraid to go to some sort of dark places here and there. I really appreciated the sophistication of that story, and the second movie is made just as well. I just think that it's a somewhat uninspired and kind of weak story. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I know no one is going to agree with this video at all, but it was requested, and I gotta tell you the experience that I had with it. Loving that first movie as much as I do, if I show it to my wife, because I think she'll really like it, I may watch that second one again and see if I have different feelings watching it a second time. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Sure appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you would like to request something for review on You Made Me Watch, or You Made Me Read, I guess, you can ask for a movie or a comic book, either a miniseries or a graphic novel or a short arc. You can become a $15 tier member on the Patreon. That is patreon.com/geekvolution. I've got quite a few people at that tier right now, so it will be a while before I get to you. If you join that right now, you can either stick around for 1 month and get that on the queue, and I will get to it when I get to it. I think there are like 17 people there right now, so it's going to be a few months. You do have the option to stick around and stay in the queue if you want to. Like I said, it will be a while, so don't feel like you have to do that. $15 will get you a requested review. And in the meantime, thanks to everybody who has participated in this. Thanks to all the patrons, and thank you very much for watching. I am Captain Logan, and I'll see you again next time.